So, hello and welcome along to another edition of Isolation Interviews for Hospital Radio Reading and for my YouTube channel. And I'm super excited because my guest today is acting icon, the amazing Mark Williams. Mark, thank you for joining me. How are you?
I'm all right, thanks. Never been called an icon before. There you go.
I mean, I say so many roles to talk about, obviously, over your amazing career. But let's go into sort of where it all began for you. I mean, do you remember where you got the bug for acting? How
Oh
did you
yeah,
know? How
vividly. Mrs. Taylor was a teacher at our middle school, and she told me that I was going to be in a play, and it was called The Reluctant Ogre, and my best friend Gary Cattell was the Reluctant Ogre, and I was the jester. And I remember standing on stage thinking, I can do this. And it was an absolute revelation to me. And that was it, really. I wasn't particularly good at anything else, no good at sport, no good at maths, particularly. So it was a kind of blessed release
And how was that first
into.
time? How was that first time on stage?
Well, it was a bit like time stood still. It was a bit it was a like I imagine when you're kind of batting or something and it all goes, you kind of just in a different place, really. It was curious.
And so, where did you kind of? So, obviously, after that happened, how sort of what was your steps into sort of making it a career? I mean, how did that happen for you?
Well, it wasn't necessarily a possibility, really. I kind of wanted to go to drama school in Birmingham when I was 16, but nobody let me. And they told me I had to stay, so I had to go in the sixth form. But I acted at every conceivable opportunity. And the same when I went to university. And it eventually got to the point where it was kind of no other choice, really. That was what was going to happen. So I had the normal. And, I was never employed for my looks or my sexuality. So I was a character actor. So not that easy when you're young. But I had a kind of facility for comedy, although I never tried to be funny. It was just my take on the world, really. So I just clawed my way up, you know.
I mean,
I
what?
mean, people kind of noticed me a bit. I got I got an audition for That's Life. I don't know if anybody. I'm sure a lot of people will remember that, which Esther Ranson's show. And I went for an interview in London, and I didn't get the job. But I remember, that thing you do where you look over and read it upside down. Great skill. And there was a section on the kind of interview notes for everybody, and it said star quality, and Esther wrote some. So I was quite pleased with that at the time.
I mean, one of
And
the.
then I,
Oh no,
oh,
continue.
sorry, well, and then I started working. I worked in fringe theatre, unpaid and stuff. And then I finally got a job, which in those days it was a closed shop. You had to have an equity card to get a job. But then again, you couldn't get a job without an equity card. But some companies had in their gift a card. And I worked for Micron, a narrowboat travelling theatre company run by Mike Lucas. And that's how I started professionally.
I mean, I was just going to say one of the sort of the earliest roles I remember you from as a child was obviously 101 Dalmatians, and that
Oh,
was
yeah.
an amazing film, but also an amazing cast. And you must have loved getting to work with, the likes of Hugh Laurie, Jeff Daniels, Glenn Close, Joan Plowright. I mean, what was that like as an experience?
Well, I didn't get to work much with kind of me. It was mostly me, Hugh, and Glenn. That was our kind of sphere of influence. And Glenn was amazing. She's got the dirtiest laugh. So we had yeah. It was great. I mean, it was extraordinary for me. I mean, I'd just come out of the Fast Show. Hadn't really I'd done films, but not big feature films. Um, so yeah, it was amazing.
And I imagine because there's a lot of quite visual sort of gags and a lot of, you guys obviously as the villains getting all of the kind of the bad stuff happening to you. That must have been quite fun, but also quite exhausting, I imagine.
Well, yeah, filming is hard. It's 12-hour days for a start. You know, you get up in the dark and you go home in the dark. We shot that in the winter, so we only saw the daylight at lunchtime. But we actually did more. There was more that happened to the crooks. There were some scenes that were cut out that were very physical and very complicated, with billiard tables collapsing and stuff. And there was one where I think, I can't remember where it made it, but the prop guy who later worked on Harry Potter, he had to throw Fuller's Earth, which is what they use for dust and dirt. It's sort of inert, but not really. And every time he threw it in my face, he'd go, before he did it, and every take he'd go, "Sorry, Mark," bang.
I mean, do you ever kind of, when you're doing a project like that, or like, you know, Harry Potter, do you kind of, because obviously they go on to be very popular, but do you ever have an idea when you're filming them, you know, how big they're going to become?
Um, you get a feeling when things are going well. Yeah, you get a feeling when it all. I mean, what I don't think people understand is how collaborative what filmmaking is, and television and theatre, and everybody's got a kind of input. And when it feels like that's happening, and then you realise that it is, you know, for want of a better word, very creative. And that brings more and more to it. And it becomes bigger than the sum of its parts, really, because the kind of joint effort starts to make it fly, really. And yeah, you do know when that happens. And it's very, very exciting, definitely. But conversely, also when it's not happening, when it's blocked, when it's constipated.
I mean, as well, it must help when you've got a cast of people that really get on, because that transpires onto the screen. I mean, you must
Yeah.
love it when you've got a great cast of people to work with.
Yeah, you can't always tell. There are famous occasions where people hated each other and you wouldn't know on screen. Yeah, I mean, as a character actor, which is what I am, you are employed to do the job, you know, to solve their problems and to bring stuff to it. Well, I remember doing Stardust, and I kind of invented what a goat would do. For example, my character gets turned. He's a goat who gets turned into a human. Michelle Pfeiffer's husband, in fact. And I realized, I thought that if you were a human goat, you wouldn't know what to do with your arms, because you never knew what arms were. So they just used to dangle, and he'd use his mouth to do anything, which is what a goat would do. You know, those are the sort of things that are very, you know, energizing, and kind of keep you going, and they're also what people want from you.
I mean, the other one as well, of course, we
You know.
talked about it briefly, Harry Potter, such a huge franchise now. And I mean, being a part of that must have been quite special. But again, do you know that's going to be huge?
Well, I got cast. I went to an audition, and Chris Columbus was there, and lots of other people. I'm not quite sure who were there. I'm sure David was there. Joe Rowling wasn't, but at one point, Chris Columbus was talking to me, and he kind of turned to everybody else, and he said, "I think he's old enough to be Julie's mom, don't you?" And everybody went, "Oh," and I thought, at that point, I thought, I've got this. I thought, he wants me to do this, and afterwards they sent me. They just made the first film, so they sent me to go and see it, and I went to a cinema in London, and it kind of, you know, the overture started, which is what it was, and the credits rolled, and it sort of opened out, and I thought, right, this is enormous. This is a new world, you know.
And getting to work with Julie Walters, who is just an icon as well. I mean, that must have been joy, and getting to do a lot of scenes with her.
Yeah, well, yeah. She's a very private person, Julie. She doesn't do any publicity or anything. That's the thing. But yes, she was great. We used to greet each other every morning gaily. "Hello, mummy. Hello, daddy." We Julie was. when they cast me, because she was in the first film and then they cast me, and she went, and she was saying, and she said, "Oh God," she said, "I wish I'd known it was you." She said, "We could have used the Brummie," because she's from the Black Country and I'm from Worcestershire, edging into the Black Country, and we could have used that. It would have been an extra sort of factor in the Weasleys being different, but we didn't.
That would have made the
Really.
film
Yeah.
so much. That would have been so good to have had that. I mean, obviously, you've done so
Well,
many
yeah.
roles over the years. Is there one that you would say people recognize you most for? Is there one that you're probably most famous for?
I never know when people come up to you, and you can tell when people are going to come up because they do that face. And it can be, the Fast Show or Shakespeare in Love or The Borrowers, or no, I don't. I never know. Or Father Brown, increasingly,
I mean,
which is a gift.
I was going to say Father Brown we have to talk about because I can't believe it's been running for 13 years now. And the beautiful location of the Cotswolds, you must love getting to go and film in and around the
Um,
Cotswolds.
well, I do actually. My dad was a an architect, so the kind of built environment around there I like a lot. Because it was built in stone, it didn't decay in the same way other areas have done. So, which is why it's kind of still very popular with people who've got enough money, because the houses, they were stone roofed, stone walled houses. They lasted despite the kind of agricultural slump after the First World War, or before, in fact. And also, we get to film in kind of some grand houses and some fascinating buildings, church buildings, monasteries, all sorts of things. So I love that. I'm always, yeah, I'm never bored.
I mean, obviously, before you kind of got involved in the Father Brown stuff, were you aware of it? Had you read the short stories, or were you coming
Oh
into it
yeah,
sort of brand
yeah,
new?
yeah. I read something online saying, with authority, Mark Williams hadn't read the Father Brown stories, and I thought, well, where do they get that from? Where do people do? By the way, do not believe anything you read about actors online, because it's all rubbish. They can't even get my wife's name right, and it's like, because people are allowed to edit it and they put what they like in. But yeah, I'm particularly a fan of the Blue Cross, which is the first story he appears in, and it's the best. I think the best introduction of a running character ever, because you don't think it's going to be Father Brown. You think it's going to be about Inspector Valentine, and it's not. Suddenly, the whole thing turns, and you focus again on this small, unassuming man.
So how did
But
that?
and of course, I'm not small or rotund enough. I'm pretty rotund, but not rotund enough. And there was we were filming in this woman's house, quite grand lady, and she said, "Are you Father Brown?" And I said, "Yes." She said, "Oh no, you're wrong. No."
So how did it come about for you? How did, you getting that role come about for you? Because obviously, such a great role to do, but you must have how did it come about? That must be amazing to have got it.
Well, there's an idea that you can kind of influence your career, which is rubbish. They asked me, what you are is you're a product yourself, and people choose you. They go shopping for somebody, and they go around and they go, "Oh no, but oh no, I don't like that colour, or that won't fit in the room." Um, and then, if you're lucky, they'll think, "What about?" And somebody went, "What about Mark Williams?"
That
And
must
I
be
was
such an honor, though.
well, yeah, well, it's very flattering, is the word. I was on set in Northern Ireland at Castle Crum. We were filming the Blandings, and we were between shots. And my agent rang me up, and she said, they're filming a new series of Father Brown, and I've told them you're on location and that you won't be able to go and audition. So I've told them they have to make an offer." She said, "So they have." And I thought, "Oh, that's interesting. What am I going to be, as a character actor?" I thought I might be, could be one of the policemen or something, or a murderer for one episode. And I said, "Oh, what part is it?" She said, "Father Brown." And you could, as they say, have knocked me down with a feather. But I can see how, from what I'd done, that how they would think I would fit. and I feel like I have fitted.
And also, it's quite a different role to other roles you've played. So it must be quite nice to get to play that sort of style. And I mean, did you? I mean, obviously, silly question.
How do you mean? I mean, it doesn't feel particularly different. I mean, do you mean the context or what it was
Yeah,
like? Oh, I see what you mean. No, continuing drama. Well, I'd done guest roles in lots of that, so I was very familiar with that kind of territory. So it didn't feel like a anything different to me particularly.
but also the show has run for, like I said before, 13 years. I mean, did you ever imagine that still today you would be a part of that would be your role? You'd still be doing it.
No, it's not a good idea to extrapolate really, or anticipate. I was talking to David Heyman when we were doing a question and answer in New York, and I said, "Did you imagine when you made the first film that you'd make eight?" And he went, "No, you just set off. You know, it's a journey, and you set off with in good heart. You know, with your knapsack packed, your crooked stick, singing gaily to yourself, and you know, who knows."
And I imagine you're still getting like people that are still discovering that show now because it's still often played on W, I think it is, or Gold, one of those channels. And I imagine a new audience is coming to it all the time. So
To the films.
to the TV series, to Father
Oh no,
Brown.
well, it's on more than that. It's on a lot. I mean, it also sells in many territories abroad, and it has lots and lots of worldwide fans. So it's a kind of, it is in honesty a global show really, and that is the benchmark now. You can be extremely famous in England, and nobody else knows who you are. Not even the Scots, for example.
Does that make it harder though when you go abroad on holiday, just for downtime, and people still recognise you? Does that become
Well, it's
tricky?
not hard, and also, as they say, if you can't do the time, don't do the crime. You know, that's your job. And people who kind of can't do it have got missing something. I once, me and Emma went to Cartagena, which is a southern Spanish seaport. It was the naval base. I think it is still actually. And we were in a sweet shop buying prezzies, and this little girl, you know, 8, 7, 8, ran up to me and chucked her arms around my legs and went, "Father Brown," you know. So that's not difficult.
And it must be nice as well because it kind of can be quite a nice icebreaker if you kind of bump into people, and it's a nice way of kind of getting the conversation going.
Um, well, not so much because people know you as a character, they don't know you. And you can sort of disappear as well, you know. People don't recognise me um, because I'm not wearing a cassock, for example, or sleuthing all over the place.
Now, across your career, like I say, you've done so much. Is there a highlight? Is there a role that you've played that is
Yeah, I'll
a
tell you. Yeah,
favorite?
the highlight is the job I'm doing tomorrow. That's the way I've had to deal with it. You know, you can't be kind of you can't have a sort of metaphorical photo album and be flicking backwards and forwards and regretting or longing, or it's very very unhealthy.
And I take it for the same reason. Is there a dream role, or like you just said, is it what you're doing at that time?
Yeah, I mean there are. I mean, as an actor, as a man, your career is son, father, stroke uncle, grandfather, and I haven't quite made it into grandfather yet, and I'm looking forward to that, to be honest, because there's a different set of interests and particularly rhythms and the way that you react with other people, particularly the young people, of course. So I would like to hope that I would continue into that area. Yeah.
I mean, I was going to say, it must be quite exciting when because we're all in the same boat. We don't know what the future holds. That must be quite exciting for yourself as well. Just what's to come.
Well, yeah, except that most actors are always, you know, just before you finish the job you're doing, you're worrying about the next job. So it is, and there are no guarantees whatsoever. You know, you look at actors, film actors and things, and you go, well, what ever happened to, you know? What happened to Rick Moranis? What happened to Sunset? I mean, Brendan Fraser had staged a comeback, but there are so many actors that you, yeah, you can never guarantee that you will get another job. You can just become unfashionable, and that's what it's about. It's that whole shopping thing again. What about Mark? Nah,
And
you know,
I take
and
it as oh, you
that's
could say,
always at the back of your mind.
I take it as long as Father Brown is going, you'll keep doing it. I take it that you've got no
Well,
plans to leave that.
no, I don't know about that. I've done. I'm about to start the 14th series, which is 15 years because of COVID. So at some point, I may decide that I want to go and be granddad somewhere.
Now, obviously, we are broadcasting to patients at the Royal Berkshire Hospital here in Reading. I mean, to any kind of staff who are working tirelessly in any hospital, really. What message would you like to send out to them? What would you like to say to the hardworking NHS staff?
Well, I worked in the NHS for. I was a nursing assistant in a psychogeriatric ward in one of the old lockups, Barnsley Hall in Bromsgrove. So I know what you're doing. And yeah, it's a whole the whole the whole job is yeah hard, but it's got its rewards, hasn't it?
I mean, I say they work so tirelessly hard, and they do such an amazing job. And I mean, also any of the patients who are currently stuck in hospital at the moment, maybe not having the best of times. What messages would you like to send to them?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I just feel for you, really. I've never had to. I've only had one operation, and I was like, practically had to strap me to the bed. So I do feel for you. And people bringing bunches of grapes doesn't really help, does it?
Now, Mark, I just have to say it's been an honor, a pleasure. Thank you so much for
Not
giving
at
up your
all.
time. You're welcome back anytime. And
Ah,
yeah,
thanks.
and thanks again.
Thank you.